How you open your day quietly decides how you live your life. Sit with that for a second. While most of the world is still buried under blankets, a small circle of people are already up, already thinking, already moving towards something. The gap between them and everyone else might only be a couple of hours, but stretched across a lifetime, that gap can rewrite an entire story. This isn't really about a clock. It was never about 5 in the morning itself. It's about what that hour stands for. Discipline, focus, commitment, a life lived on purpose. Because rising early does something quietly powerful. It hands you control before the world has a chance to make its demands, before the noise starts, before excuses get the chance to take root. In that window, you get time to think, time to plan, time to build yourself before anyone else asks anything of you. That's where change actually begins. Success isn't luck, and it isn't some hidden trick. It's built from effort and discipline, plain and simple. Most people want the results without wanting the routine. They want a remarkable life out of an unremarkable schedule, and that math never works. Real progress asks for intention. It asks for discipline. It asks for sacrifice. And sometimes that sacrifice is nothing more dramatic than leaving a warm bed when staying in. It would be so much easier. Every single morning hands you a choice. Silence the alarm, or chase the goal. Choose comfort, or choose growth. Choose what feels good right now, or choose what your future self will thank you for. And those small, repeated choices, stacked day after day, eventually become your life. Big transformations rarely come from one dramatic decision. They come from thousands of small, boring, disciplined ones. The decision to get up, decision to keep learning, the decision to prepare, decision to improve just a little more. That's the mindset we're talking about here. Mindset that says, I take responsibility for my own future. I won't sit around waiting for a chance. I'll be ready when it comes. Because here's what people who win understand. Morning isn't just the start of a day. It's a window. A window to grow stronger, sharper, wiser, more disciplined. And discipline behaves exactly like compound interest. A little today, a little more tomorrow, a little more next week. And one day you look up and realize you've become an entirely different person, not from one dramatic turning point, but from quiet, consistent effort, repeated, until it built something remarkable. Ask yourself something simple. How do you actually begin your mornings? Because the way you begin a morning tends to shape the way you move through the whole day. And the way you move through your days eventually becomes the way you live your life. Success was never built in one single moment. It's built in a collection of small ones. And some of the most important of those small moments happen in that first hour after your eyes open. Real progress is nothing more than a handful of simple habits, repeated daily. Not weekly, not when the motivation shows up, daily. And morning is where those habits start. Every sunrise offers a clean slate, a new shot, a chance to begin again. Yesterday's already gone. Tomorrow hasn't arrived yet. But this morning is yours. So, what will you do with it? Most people wake up and immediately hand their attention away. They grab the phone. They react to messages. They let notifications set the emotional tone before they've just had a single private thought of their own. That's a quietly dangerous habit, because if you don't take charge of your day will take charge of you. People who consistently succeed see it differently. To them, that first hour is an investment in clarity, in focus, in direction. Picture a pilot getting ready for takeoff. Would you want that pilot walking in distracted, confused, unprepared? Of course not. Pilot starts with preparation. Your life deserves exactly that same respect. Morning is your preparation time. Your chance to think before you act, to plan before you react, to lead before you follow. Don't wish for an easier path. Wish to become a stronger version of yourself. And that becoming often starts before breakfast, before the noise, before the demands of the day pile on. In that quiet stretch you can read, you can think, you can write, you can reflect. You can get your mind ready for whatever's ahead. Here's something worth remembering. Confidence isn't built by the clock. It's built by the promises you keep with yourself. Say you'll wake at a certain hour and follow through. You build trust in yourself. Say you'll read a few pages and follow through. Same thing. Say you'll move your body and follow through. Same thing again. And self-trust is exactly where real confidence starts. A lot of people are waiting to feel confident before they act. That's backwards. Action comes first. Discipline comes first. Feeling follows the action. never the other way around. That's why the morning carries so much weight. It gives you a chance to bank an early win. Small one, sure, but small wins create momentum, and momentum is a force of its own. One good decision leads to the next. One disciplined action sparks another. One productive hour shapes a productive day, which shapes a productive week, and a productive month, a productive year, and eventually, a life you're proud of. Most people underestimate a single morning. They treat it like just another hour. It isn't. It's the foundation. When the foundation is solid, everything stacked on top of it gets stronger too. Begin with purpose, and you're far more likely to finish with purpose. Begin with focus, and focus tends to follow you through the day. You don't need a flawless routine. You just need intention, a few simple habits, done consistently. Because if you win the morning, you tilt the odds toward winning the whole day. Win enough days, you win the week. Win enough weeks, you win the year. Win enough years, you reshape your entire life. So tomorrow, before the world asks anything of you, ask something of yourself first. Show up, stay intentional, stay disciplined, stay focused. Extraordinary lives are usually built from a string of very ordinary mornings. Let's be honest about something. The real fight rarely happens in a battle for success far off in the distance. It happens, quietly, before sunrise. Not because early mornings hold some secret, not because the people who rise early know something the rest of us don't. It's simpler than that. Waking up early demands the one thing success always demands: discipline. Discipline is the bridge between where you are and where you want to be. Picture it. Your goals sit on one side, your achievements sit on the other, and the only way across is that bridge. Not talent, not luck, not circumstance. Discipline. Let's name the real obstacle too. It was never the alarm clock. It's comfort. The warm bed. The extra 10 minutes. That familiar voice whispering, just a little longer. We've all heard it. We've all given in to it at some point. But the people who consistently succeed learn to stop negotiating with comfort. Here's the truth. Every morning, two versions of you show up at the same time. One wants ease. One wants growth. One wants comfort. One wants forward motion. One wants to stay exactly where it is. The other wants to become something more. And every single morning, one of those two versions wins. The only real question is, which one are you feeding? Because whatever gets fed grows, and whatever gets ignored fades. Getting up early is simple. It isn't easy. And that gap between simple and easy is exactly why it matters. Because easy habits rarely reshape a life. Hard ones often do. When you choose to get up early, you're doing more than leaving a bed. You're sending yourself a message. My goals matter. My future matters. My growth matters. And messages like that quietly shape who you become. A lot of people think discipline is some form of punishment. It isn't. Discipline is self-respect, put into motion. It's proof that your word to yourself actually means something. Keep that promise enough times, and you build real character, real confidence, real self-belief. And here's the part most people miss. The actual reward was never the early hour itself. The reward is the person that hour slowly turns you into. Someone who keeps promises. Someone who follows through. Someone who acts instead of postponing. There will be mornings you don't feel like getting up. Cold mornings. Tired mornings. Mornings with zero trace of motivation anywhere in sight. Those are the mornings that matter most. Because discipline was never tested by the easy days. It's tested on the hard ones. Anyone can rise early while they're inspired. The real test is whether you can do it when you're not. That's where the growth actually lives. 5 a.m. mindset teaches something valuable. Your feelings don't get to run the show. You can be exhausted and still get up, uncomfortable and still move forward, unmotivated and still stay committed. Once that lesson lands, everything shifts. Because success has always required the ability to act despite how you feel. Not because you're constantly inspired, but because you've built discipline instead. Do this enough. Every morning, every week, every month, and you start trusting yourself in a way that changes everything. You stop second-guessing. You start believing bigger things are possible. Because you've already proven to yourself that hard things are doable. That proof can't be bought. It has to be earned, one small decision at a time. So remember, the alarm was never the enemy. Comfort is, excuses are, delay is. And every time you choose to rise, you win a quiet, private battle against laziness, against procrastination, against the smaller version of yourself that wants less out of life. Win enough of those, and eventually you win something bigger. Control, confidence, discipline. Once discipline takes hold, success stops feeling random, starts feeling almost inevitable. Here's something most people never notice. The biggest breakthroughs rarely happen in crowds or noise. They happen in silence, alone with your own thoughts. There's no better window for that than the early morning. Before the world wakes up, before the phone starts buzzing, before everyone begins asking for a piece of your attention, there's stillness, there's peace, there's solitude. And that solitude carries real power. Most people are uneasy with being alone, so they fill every quiet second with noise, music, television, endless scrolling, and they never leave themselves room to actually think. That's a costly habit, because thinking is where growth starts. The real value in life was never what you collect. It's who you become. And becoming takes reflection. It takes space. You can't hear your own wisdom if your life never goes quiet. In that early hour, the world gets quiet enough for you to finally hear yourself think. And that matters. Because your future gets shaped by your thoughts, your choices, your outlook, your vision. Most people spend their lives reacting to problems, to circumstances, to other people's expectations. But in solitude, the reacting stops. Thinking starts. Planning starts. Creating starts. When was the last time you sat quietly for even 20 minutes? No phone, no screen, no noise, just your own thoughts. For a lot of people, that almost never happens. Yet those quiet stretches can genuinely reshape a life, because clarity comes from stillness, not chaos. Direction comes from reflection, not distraction. Wisdom comes from thinking, not rushing past everything. Don't spend your best hours on your smallest concerns. That's one of life's clearest lessons. And solitude is what helps you remember it. Because alone, you can actually weigh your priorities. Am I moving toward what matters? Am I becoming who I want to be? Am I using my time well? Those questions matter, and the answers matter even more. That early hour lets you think before the world starts thinking for you. It lets you decide what deserves your energy and what doesn't. To be clear, solitude isn't loneliness. Loneliness is disconnection. Solitude is a choice to reconnect with yourself, and there's real strength in that. Because once you're comfortable being alone with your own mind, you stop needing outside approval so badly. You stop being swayed by every passing opinion. You get sharper about your own purpose. Purpose changes what a person can endure. Someone with purpose can push through difficulty. Someone with purpose can absorb a setback and keep moving. Someone with purpose stays in the fight after others have quietly given up. Purpose is rarely found in noise. It's usually found in silence, and the early morning hands you exactly that. A quiet setting, clear head, room to think deeply. Deep thinking leads to better decisions. Every meaningful life is built on a string of good ones, usually made in quiet reflection, not in rushed reaction. In that hour, you can read something worthwhile, write down your goals, check your progress, plan your day, strengthen your mindset. Small, quiet actions, but they add up. Over time, you become sharper, more intentional, more aware. While everyone else scrambles into their day, you walk into yours with a plan already in place. That's the quiet power of solitude. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't demand attention. It shapes a future all the same. Protect those early hours. Use them well, because some of the most important conversations you'll ever have are the ones you have with yourself before the sun comes up. Here's a question worth sitting with. What if that first hour of your day could reshape the next 10 years of your life? Would it be worth guarding, worth investing in? Of course it would. That's the real lesson successful people learn. It was never enough to just wake up early. What matters is what you do with those hours. Waking up early on its own changes nothing. Anyone can open their eyes at 5. The real question is what happens after. Because the value was never in the hour. It's in how you use it. Put more effort into becoming a better version of yourself than you put into your job. Think about that for a second. Most people spend years grinding at work, but almost no time building themselves. And then they wonder why nothing else changes. Your income can grow. Your opportunities can grow. First, you have to grow. That's where real development starts. Morning is the perfect classroom. No interruptions, no distractions, no demands. Just time. Time to invest in yourself. The person you become matters more than the money you make, because who you become determines what you'll eventually earn, achieve, attract. So picture starting every day with growth. A few pages of a good book, an idea that challenges your thinking, a couple of lines written toward your goals, a quick review of your plan, a moment to think about where you're headed. Small actions, but small, repeated actions build extraordinary results. Real progress is nothing more than a few simple habits, done every single day. Personal growth is one of them, not occasionally, but daily, page by page, lesson by lesson. A lot of people want a better life without ever studying what a better life actually requires. They want success without studying success. They want change without ever changing themselves, and that's exactly where things stall out. Growth isn't automatic. Getting older is automatic. Growth is a choice. You can spend a decade repeating the same patterns, or spend that same decade sharpening them. The choice sits with you. Read even 10 pages a day, and that's dozens of pages a week, hundreds a month, thousands across a year. Think about the ideas, the perspective, the knowledge gathered from one small habit, repeated without fail. That's the quiet power of consistency. Not one dramatic leap, but daily motion. Most people are hunting for a single breakthrough moment. Real success usually arrives through routine. A routine of learning, of improving, of getting a little stronger every day. Morning is your chance to build that routine. Sharpen your thinking before the world tests it. Build your character before circumstances demand it. Here's what happens as a result. The more you grow, the more valuable you become. The more valuable you become, the more doors start opening. Because opportunity gravitates toward people who are already prepared. Success isn't something you chase down. It's something you attract through who you become. You don't need 3 hours a day. You don't need an elaborate system. You just need real commitment. 30 minutes, 60 minutes, set aside for your own growth. Read something worthwhile. Write your thoughts down. Check your goals. Learn something new. Reflect on yesterday. Prepare for today. None of it feels dramatic in the moment. But give it a year, give it 5, give it 10, you'll barely recognize the person you've become. Personal growth works the way planting does. You don't see the harvest right away. Keep planting, keep tending, keep showing up, and eventually, the harvest comes. So don't waste your mornings. Guard them, use them, invest them, because every single one is a chance to get a little smarter, a little stronger, a little more capable than you were yesterday. Here's the real truth underneath everything we've talked about. This was never really about waking up early. Not once. It's about becoming a different person entirely. Stronger, more disciplined, more intentional. Because your life changes when you change, and rising early is simply one of the fastest paths toward that shift. Most people chase success directly, chasing money, chasing recognition, chasing the next opportunity. But the people who actually get there focus somewhere else entirely, on becoming. Because once you improve as a person, everything downstream starts to improve with you. This mindset is really about ownership. Ownership of your time, your habits, your future. And ownership changes everything, because the moment you take real responsibility for your life starts moving in a completely new direction. Most people live reactively, waking late, rushing through the morning, responding to problems as they land, reacting to circumstance after circumstance, and before long, the day is steering them instead of the other way around. This mindset flips that. You become proactive. You start each day with purpose, with intention, with an actual plan. And when you lead your mornings, you begin leading your life. One disciplined morning won't change much on its own. A single week might not look extraordinary either. But a year? 5 years? 10? That's where the real shift happens. Not in one dramatic day, but in the slow compounding of small choices, small wins, small daily growth stacked on top of itself. Real progress is nothing more than a few simple habits, repeated every single day, and the word that matters most there is every. Consistency is what creates transformation, not bursts of motivation. Every morning you rise early, you reinforce your discipline. Every morning you read, you sharpen your mind. Every morning you plan, you strengthen your direction. Every morning you reflect, you deepen your judgment. And eventually those strengths stop staying in the morning. They spread into every part of your life. You become steadier at work, more patient under pressure, more confident in your choices, more committed to what matters, more consistent in your habits. Discipline never stays confined to one corner of a life. It spreads. Once you master your mornings, other pieces start falling into place. Your health, your mindset, your output, your relationships, your confidence. Not overnight, steadily, predictably. And that's the real power of this mindset. It doesn't just reshape your schedule, it reshapes your identity. You stop seeing yourself as someone who puts things off. You stop seeing yourself as someone who waits around for motivation to show up. You start seeing yourself as someone who acts, who follows through, who keeps their own word, who keeps growing. And that shift in identity changes everything that follows, because people rarely outperform the story they tell themselves about who they are. Don't wish for an easier road. Wish to become someone stronger. This mindset helps get you there. A little better each day, a little steadier, a little wiser, a little more prepared. And those small gains, stacked over time, produce outcomes that look extraordinary from the outside. Not because any single step was dramatic, but because none of them stopped. So here's the real reward of rising early. It was never the extra hour itself. It's the person that hour quietly built, the discipline earned, the confidence built, the habits formed, the future designed, one early morning at a time. Years from now, someone might look at where you've landed and assume it was one lucky break, one big opportunity, one perfect moment. But you'll know better. You'll know it started quietly, in the early hours, while most people were still asleep. While you were building, growing, preparing, day after day, week after week, year after year. Those quiet mornings, stacked one on top of another, are what built the life. Because mastering your mornings was never just about the clock. It was about mastering your direction. This isn't about the hour. It's about becoming better. Every morning is one more chance to grow, to learn, and to take one more step toward the life you're actually building. Stay disciplined. Stay consistent. Keep investing in yourself. Win the morning, and you begin to win everything that follows. Mark Douglas.